Hello, everyone. It's Friday. We are 1 week away. 1 week from the actual what I call the NHL trade deadline part two, which is the draft, otherwise known as the draft. I'm not a draft person as much as a trade person, so it used to be the draft was kind of a fun time. I can sit around and pretend I know everything that's going on. But now I have to pretend what's going on at the draft because I need to follow the draft closer because of how it impacts trades and free agents, and we're already seeing.
It's funny. It's funny, because I'm here in Buffalo,
Mhm.
and I've gotten a number of questions from Leaf fans and a couple of reporters. Where do I go for wings? And I've steered them away from the world famous Anchor Bar, because I think the Anchor Bar's wings are overrated. And there's a few secret places that I've sent them to, and but it's funny that that's the big thing. Where do I go to eat? Like, where are the wings? Where are the best places?
If you've been around the NHL media, you know it's all about food. I mean,
it is. It is. A lot of people have asked me too in Buffalo where they should go for fun, and I say Canada.
yeah.
Niagara
I mean,
Falls.
the media is all about food, which is why the NHL feeds us so often, like at these NHL events. It's crazy. Like there were 3 meals from 3 o'clock until midnight that you could have for free at any point during covering the finals. There's one from 2 to 5 in the hotel that's called the NHL Media Meal, which is free. It's a nice smorgasbord of food. Then you get to the arena and they would have their own meal going on there, and then after the game you have another meal back at the hotel again for the NHL media after the game. So
Well,
yeah, the NHL media does feed us. That's for sure.
Yeah, you guys are in my baacyard in Boston, and instead of going home, I was going out with you guys.
Yeah, I know. There's all this food.
Well, I'm wondering because we were at the draft in Philadelphia, and the food that the lunch that they gave us was pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether in Buffalo they're going to give the famous Buffalo beef on wax sandwich, which is a roast beef sandwich on a Kimmelwick roll, which is a roll that's all like salty and has
Delicious.
But being here, living here, I'm sick of it.
No, I'm sure. I mean, but I would tell you this: as I've lived my entire life in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia area, basically, from South Jersey to the western Pennsylvania suburbs, and I am not at all sick of a cheesesteak. Like I can still eat a cheesesteak,
Right.
flat out, anytime.
Yeah, the New Haven area has 4 of the top 6 pizza places in the country, and I never get sick of pizza.
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean I never get sick of pizza and cheesesteak.
But that what you just described there, Mike, I could have that 3 days a week. 3 days a week.
Yeah, well,
The beef on whack.
no,
Yeah.
I mean wings, yes, wings definitely. I mean I could, I think I'd have congestive heart failure by the time I turned 55, but but just beef on whack, I've had it since I was a kid. Like Salen's hot dogs, this particular brand of hot dogs in Buffalo. Phil Kessel would love them. I'm not exactly, I don't have an affinity for them. It's just that after you've had something your entire life, you want to try a little bit of variety.
And there's the Phil Kessel reference for today. But and chowder, Ty.
Yeah, I love me some chowder. I love seafood in general. It's kind of like when you meet someone up here that doesn't like seafood, and you meet a lot of people that don't like seafood. It's like, where are you actually from? Because
Right. We don't. Yeah, same thing in Connecticut. We don't trust anyone that doesn't like seafood.
Yeah.
I love seafood, Ty. It's just that clam chowder is something that I've
That's
never.
awesome.
Oh man.
Can't do it. I mean, any kind of fish, shrimp, crab's legs, anything.
Yeah.
But just not clam chowder or oysters or clams.
What's funny about these things, like we talk about pizza, chowder, wings, beef on whack, cheesesteaks, they are so variable. These are foods that are so you can have great or you can have horrible on
Right.
all of those things, right? I mean, there's no comparison. For the most part, spaghetti is spaghetti, right? But the sauces are obviously different, but pasta is pasta. But this kind of stuff, man, there's incredible cheesesteaks. There's horrible cheesesteaks.
I've had both of them.
Yeah, I mean, same here. And
My favorite in Philly is Tony Luke's. I like
Tony
that.
Luke's is my favorite too.
so funny. I'm a Geno's guy here. I like Tony Luke. People are into Tony Luke's. I'm totally into Geno's. I don't
I
like.
used to like Geno's. I like Tony Luke's bread better. That's what changed me over.
Huh. Well, I've taken a lot of players to Geno's to try to convince them that Geno's is best, and I've done a pretty good job with it. I first went to Gino's when I was recording an album in Philly when we didn't have any money, or in the early days of recording, and we were recording from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. every day. So when you would do that shift for your album, there's nothing like coming off the end of it, like at 8 a.m. and finding yourself a cheesesteak to go home before you went to bed.
Well, the place in Buffalo that is the steaks, the sub place, they stay open till 5 o'clock in the morning every night of the week. I don't know how the hell they do it.
Count for that though. It doesn't.
Well, a cheesesteak cheesesteak is kind of like a Taco Bell at the end of a long night. You know, like that's
right.
what you want.
Open
a
up
cheesesteak.
the alcohol.
Yeah.
You want a cheesesteak or a Taco Bell, that's for sure.
A Buffalo cheesesteak and a Philly cheesesteak are not comparable.
Oh no, I wasn't comparing the two. I mean, I'll tell you, Russ, the place that we went to during the combine, I won't name the place, but that was a pretty good sub, and our secret chicken wing place, I've never had a place that had better wings than that place.
No, I agree with both of those. I'll say this: the most underrated cheesesteak place in the greater Philly area is White House Subs in Atlantic City, but you gotta be.
No, that's not underrated when you're down there though, Russ.
Right.
I mean, that's about 5 miles. I'm going to be spending a lot of next week doing all of my fun times down by the shore, and it's so funny. Family's like, we're going on vacation for a week. I'm like, yes, the week before the draft, the perfect time for me to go on vacation. Like you guys will all be out. You guys will all be out on the beach, and I'll be stuck in a freaking room with 6 computers around me like this. And my phone, and oh my God, we just got internet strong enough to actually reach the beach though. That's the cool thing. I got a special router that if I put it on the window, I can sit on the beach and I can get it out there. So I might be trying that. But yeah, but no, if you're down at the White House sub place, yeah, that place. But see, if I'm there, I'm not getting a cheesesteak. I'm going straight for a sub. Like I'm going for the White House special.
That's fine, but they're good on everything.
They are good. I mean, they're huge. I mean, they're gigantic, right? They're very, very big. That plays into it too. But the cheesesteak place is not legit to me unless there is a vat of Cheese Whiz viewable.
No, Cheese Whiz.
Like, I have to be able to see it from where I'm ordering. I want to see that metal thing that's the aluminum that's been stripped off by a guy going goes around. That's what I want to see.
I'm not John Kerry. I don't like Swiss cheese on my cheesesteak.
No, Cheese Whiz is the only way to have a Philly cheesesteak.
Not Cheese Whiz. Provolone.
See that's the frou-frou shishi. Yeah, that's how
whatever, but it's better than eating plastic.
Or just good old American. If you don't like American cheese, you're a communist.
My God.
You're a communist. Yes, right.
Let's start the show.
Let's start the
show. Let's go Dan, Ty, Russ.
It'd be like going to Boston for pizza. Come on.
Oh, there's great pizza in Boston, in the North End.
It's okay.
No, Ty, back me up. I can't think of the name of it.
No, I know when to just. Russ is like the show's Steve Ott. You just gotta you just gotta turn around and walk away.
I can't think of the name of the place. It's in the North End. I'm texting my friend right now. He took me there. It was like a scene out of The Godfather, and the pies were incredible.
I love that. Russ is the show's Steve Ott.
He says things and does things. You just gotta go. Yeah, I'm not doing this today.
Mike's the George Costanza.
Yes, he is.
Russ is the Steve Ott. Yeah, we gotta figure out. This is pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, Ernesto's the North End. There's a little hole in the wall. It's great pizza.
I think that's the place.
Oh, man. Here we go. Ready?
Yes.
So loud here. God. Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, June 17th, 2016.
I'm Michael Lagello, Esquire.
I'm Dan Petru, no fancy title.
I'm Ty Anderson.
I'm Steve Ott.
That's Russ Cohen from Sportsology, and I am Eklund, and you're watching the Hockey Buzz cast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings of the hockey world. And we like the fact that you hockey buzzards have gathered together to join with us in this whole process, because we are now a week away from the greatest, probably the greatest 10 days in all of hockey, the days leading up to the draft and leading after the after July 1st. So as far as you're a Hockey Buzz person, this is what you're here for. Somebody wrote the other day, yeah, Hockey Buzz readers, they're just sitting there feeding on the flesh of these UFAs, and that's pretty funny.
Carnivores.
So I said Hockey Buzzards. They're Hockey Buzzards. Sure, perfect. It's perfect. That's what they do. But yeah, so we have a lot to talk about today. We'll get into it. Let's try this for a second before we get into the fact that Malkin was at the NBA game last night. Let's talk about let's talk a little bit more. We got into a little bit yesterday about this concept of acquiring the rights because there's some more stuff coming out today.
Right.
And I have a little more info on the Stamkos rights, which are basically, if you look at my chart, I'll bring it up. My Stamkos thing I think might be right at the top right now. And basically, I have actually, Mike, to your happiness here, you should probably like this, that I've raised the Maple Leafs a bit and lowered the Lightning just a little bit from some discussions I had. I still have the Lightning as the favorite at 35%, but I have the Leafs right at 30%, so it's getting pretty tight. And that's a 30%. I mean, that's dropping the Lightning 20 and raising the Leafs 10. It does sound like to me, at least at this point, that the rights will become available next week, middle of the week. The advantages of acquiring these rights early, of course, are many.
Right.
Not just signing, but actually giving yourself a chance to plan for the draft, which is another thing, because how you draft depends on who you have. So.
Well, the funny thing is, it makes sense for whoever would trade for Stamkos' rights to do it before, like, early next week, Monday or Tuesday, because by Saturday, anybody can talk to him. Apparently, the 5-day negotiating window begins the second day of the draft with everybody on the draft floor in Buffalo. They can talk to any free agent. So, I mean, it's going to be. I mean, the rumors will be running rampant at the First Niagara Center regarding Stamkos. But I think if his rights get traded, I mean, Russ will talk about this because we were talking about this earlier, and the fact that if they don't have something concrete probably by the end of this weekend, then you're going to start hearing the Stamkos negotiating rights rumors being floated because they need to get something if they know he's going to walk for nothing.
Yeah, I think by Sunday night on most of these players, if they know they can't sign them, then they're going to start trading rights off by Monday and Tuesday the latest, because if you're a team that gets the rights, you're going to want to 48 to 72 hours to negotiate. Right. You know, go back to the Dan Hamhuis. How long did the Islanders have to negotiate with him? 10 minutes?
It wasn't Hamhuis. It was
Ehrhoff.
Ehrhoff,
sorry.
They had a day.
Yeah, a day's not enough.
And then they flipped.
They offered him a ton of money too.
I will say this though, I think acquiring Stamkos' rights is extremely risky. And talking to people about because talking to people about it, it seems as if Stamkos is not going to give anyone any indication of anything. That's what I'm getting. Like that, you're not going to know. Like the Lightning aren't necessarily going to know. I mean, the Lightning are the only team that's probably going to have any idea what's going on. But even because Stamkos will give them some benefit, but for the most part, Stamkos doesn't owe anything to anybody. This is the NHLPA wants him to take it to July 1st completely. That's what they want him to do. So why not?
You never know. It's like anything else. If you could put up a convincing enough argument, you may get them. And so if you're a team that believes you're close already, you're the only one that can negotiate with them, you're going to give it a shot.
No, somebody's going to try, even if they get no assurances, because that's the funny thing about these rights things. Normally, like Goligoski yesterday came out. Actually, Josh Rimmer, our former HockeyBuzz person on the HockeyBuzz cast here, reported that Goligoski was, very interested in going to Arizona. That's kind of not the norm these days. It used to be where when a player rights were traded, you knew that player actually wanted to go there, and they had talked to the team and said, "Let's work this all out."
Well,
this case, this case that it looks like that may have happened, but in Stamkos' case, I don't think that's going to be possible to happen. I don't think that Stamkos is going to give that to anybody.
Right, and that may lower the price, or that may prevent the trade from happening at all. I mean, like I said, the thing is, the only thing that makes sense in trading for his rights is doing it early enough that you get an opportunity to talk to him in Newport Sports, because by Saturday, even if the rights are traded, like say if Detroit traded for his rights, Toronto can talk to him on Saturday. So
right. You think it has to be like Wednesday.
Right, without the price of a second-round, if it's a second-round pick, I would rather keep the second-round pick and wait till Saturday to talk to him, and maybe roll the dice that a team like Detroit or a team like Buffalo can't sway him to sign a deal before July 1st.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but it could be the agent might just say to his rights could get traded. I said, then the agent could say, we're not talking to anybody before July 1st. That's very possible. They don't have to talk to anybody. They're not talking to Tampa. So the idea here is that that they're not talking to Tampa yet. They're not reaching out to Tampa. Tampa is reaching out to them, from what I've heard. So this is not.
Yeah, if they're not talking to Tampa, this is over with. You know what I'm saying?
No. That's the wrong way to read it.
Well, okay, I mean, maybe it is, but you got to remember, Newport Sports is the agency that held the Brad Richards fiasco. They're the ones who had everybody coming to Toronto and making a pitch.
Stamkos would never do that.
We say that, but we don't know.
No, I'm telling you. I mean, if he does that, I will eat my hat because this is not a Stamkos.
Which hat? Please tell us which hat.
I'll find it.
There's a couple of shirts you could eat. That would be okay.
Stamkos to me, not. I mean, he's not the kind of guy who would hold that kind of a lottery, that kind of public lottery. That was embarrassing.
Well, he's in charge of his agency, though. He is. He's the player. He's in charge.
Oh yeah.
If you met with him and everything fit in, family life, money, taxes, and it all lined up, he could go to his agency and say, you know what, this is where I want to go. Thanks for your help.
And that's what will happen. That's what will happen.
But remember, that whole thing with Newport Sports was a charade. Everybody knew he was going to the Rangers.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a charade. And I mean, yes, we all did. Everyone projected Mike that he was going to the Rangers. But honestly, I mean, there are some very smart hockey people who put in a lot of time and put presentations together, even though they knew as much as we know that he's going to the Rangers, because the way that was sold out was that, yeah, maybe that might be the team he wants to go to, but he's open to all suggestions. So there was a lot of work that went into that, and there are some teams that got really screwed on that particular day by that, because they were hung up there and they were hung up waiting for that to happen while other players were getting snapped up. So, I mean, it's hard to it's easy right now. I mean, one thing I really is driving me crazy. Just going to get this off my chest for a second. In the advent of Twitter and rumors, okay, because this is something that I've been following. I've been obviously a rumor person for long before Twitter and long before this. There are suddenly a lot of people who believe they are absolute experts in this. Now, I'm not saying that they aren't, but the reality is that you can sit there and say they would never do this, or someone would. I'm not talking about you, Mike, specifically. I'm just talking about people in general. Even though you do this sometimes, but everybody does this. I'm saying everybody does this. I do it too. You can sit there and say they would never do that, and this show's all about us making opinions and stating what we feel and all that stuff. But the reality of it is, and Russ, I know, like, you've been doing this longer than all of us, and when I talk to people who have been doing this for a long time, the reality is, unless you're the person making the decision, you cannot say that you would never do it. That the people who are doing it themselves have totally different logic than we have. I mean, the salary cap, sure, that's something that we all deal with, and yes, that's there. But even that, if they want to make it happen, they find ways, and we've seen it happen before. So it's so easy now on Twitter with everybody throwing out there, oh, this person, they'll never get, and suddenly it becomes almost real. It becomes real to people too. It becomes real to other GMs. I'll even throw it out there. Like, I've heard other GMs give me rumors that they got off of Twitter, basically, or GMs have their own rumors that fly around. I mean, Brian Burke has admitted this to me a couple times. He's like, well, that's just a rumor that I heard from other GMs. Rumors grow in all different areas. The reality is, you have to always look at the agendas involved. You have to look at the players involved. You have to look at the people involved. You have to, and the players are, and the fact that the players are people. They're not just players. That they have families involved. That there's all sorts of things. And I can sit there and say they should never do this. But if that's what he wants to do, or if that's what another person in his family wants to do, then that's what happens. And it's so easy to get caught up. I think using the word never at this time of year is amateurish to me. When I see people use the word never, to me it's amateur.
Things change too when real money's out there. You could say that this team might not be interested or this team doesn't have a chance, but when real money gets out there, like, for example, look at what Detroit's doing. They're obviously trying to maneuver themselves to free up significant amount of salary. And you might say, you know what, Stamkos isn't going to Detroit, but when there's $10 million or $11 million on the table, that changes things.
And and you're exactly right. And this is where I've screwed up before, because I've said, oh, I know that person. It won't just be about money. It won't just be about money. And sometimes it is friggin' just about money. And I sit there and I'm like, what happened? And I'll talk to the guy. He's like, well, it was a lot of money. I'm like, all right. Well, then it was about money. The whole time you were telling me it wasn't going to be about money. So, I mean, you're right, Dan, because money is money. And at the end of the day, it's security. These guys only have so much time to work, and that's how I look at it.
Whoa.
And
sorry, I dropped my microphone.
That's all right. They only have so much time in this planet, and they only have so many years, and they have only so many shifts before they break their ankles or break their knees, and they have to make the most money they can sometimes. So yes, sometimes
that's what Stamkos has to be. That's what Stamkos has to be like that. With
you're
blood clot issues, with the other issues he's had, he has to be like that. You also need to think about, like, if you've made it this far, why wouldn't you test the market, sort of thing. And that's what it comes back down to.
And every indication is that Steve Yzerman, and maybe rightly so from the Tampa point of view, is looking for Stamkos to take a haircut so he can sign, guys like Hedman and Kucherov, keep the band together, so to speak. But the funny thing is that yesterday, in the span of maybe a couple hours, listening to different got hockey insiders like Drager, like Bob McKenzie, like Chris Johnston from Sportsnet, guys who are tied in just as much as Eck, none of them know a thing about Stamkos. Nothing. So,
and I can sit there and tell you that Tampa doesn't know a thing right now.
Yeah. Here's what it boils down to, too.
And that's why they don't know a thing, because if Tampa knew a thing, they would know something.
Right. This decision will take a while in the sense that this is the team that drafted him. He does have loyalty to him. And more than any other sport, I know money talks, but this is one sport when a guy gets drafted to a team, there is a little bit of loyalty that they have to him, and it does make the first time that they're a free agent a decision tougher than any other time. Once they do it once or twice, it's a business. It's easy. The first time is very hard for them.
We're all go ahead, Dan. One second, Dan. I want to let you share a story because I know it's a good story, but there is a comfort level that exists in the world too, and that definitely is very real with people. And you can sit there and say, why would a player want to stay on the pick a team that's obscure like the Lightning or the Blue Jackets or back in the day the Thrashers? Why would a player want to stay with the Thrashers or whatever? The reality is, once you've been there, once you've worked there, once you've been in the community, when you've gone to practices, you've gone to games, your family's settled, your kids are loving their teachers, all this stuff happens, it does become a home to you. And even if you never would have wanted to be drafted there in the first place, like look at Connor McDavid in Edmonton. He's very happy in Edmonton now. I've talked to people who say he's thrilled to play there. We know he wasn't thrilled to play there a year ago, when that happened, right? But he's thrilled. He actually likes it there. He really does.
We'll see in a couple of years.
About working and living in a community and playing with and wearing a sweater that makes players definitely loyal to that sweater, regardless of what it is, regardless of how lofty we all feel it is. It's realities. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
Well, no, it's just it's funny because we say sometimes it's more about the money, but most of the time it is about the money. I have a friend that worked for a team in the communications department, and what they did when they were recruiting a player is they made a video about the area that they were going to. And they even had some past players interviewed in there about how great this was to live in, how good the community was, how great the schools were. And then a player signed with the team, and they said to my friend, he said to my friend, my friend said to the player, "Hey, did you get that DVD?" And he's like, "Oh, that was great. That was really informative. That was awesome." And my friend said, "That's what aired the decision." He's like, "No, the money did."
Right.
He's like, "The money and the years did. That's why I'm here."
I'll tell you what those things are good at. What those things are good at is this. It's like everybody wants a decision they've made to be backed up, right? So once you made a decision to go someplace because of the money or because of whatever reason, and then you're watching that video, you're like, you see, we're doing the right thing. We're doing the right thing. But it's you want to be reinforced. Like people want you want to show you want your wife to be more comfortable with the decision. Watch this video. This is really cool. Oh yeah, you know what? This is awesome. We're doing the right thing. After you've made the decision, that's when people just love to be reinforced. That's the reality of decision making.
Remember, Chris Pronger loved Edmonton for 1 year.
Yeah.
So just remember that.
He did.
Think of it this way: if Steven Stamkos gets an offer comparable to what he might get in free agency, he's not going anywhere. He's staying in Tampa. He likes Tampa. He likes his team. He likes the area. All that stuff. All this is about him not getting what he thinks he'll get on the open market. And if he could go back, and I'll just use Toronto as the example because it's the one that I'm fixated on. If he gets an offer, the highest offer from a team that he rooted for as a kid to go back home, that's a home run.
No, that doesn't play into it. You're right. I agree. And that's, again, like I said, that's reinforcing it. Like, oh, yeah, they're giving best offer. I love that team when I was a kid. It reinforces everything. After the offer has been decided upon, it reinforces it, right? And there's no question, like, all of us grew up fans of a team. If I was a hockey player and I was suddenly somewhere else and the Flyers were giving me a great offer, you don't think I'd want to play with the Flyers? You don't think I'd want to wear that jersey and play in that? Of course I would. That's absolutely, what we talked about with Lucic for years in Vancouver or whatever. You get certain situations where, you want to see that. We think about Yandel in Boston, same way, right? These guys who really, really want, you would think, at their heart to play for a team. And I've seen that, but I can say that, honestly, it's very rare for some reason that works out. And I don't know what that is, Russ. You've seen this too, like where a guy goes back and plays for his hometown team, it just for some reason can be disastrous. I don't know what it
Yeah, I don't know. David Clarkson.
It works out in all sports. I think it works out 20% of the time.
Yeah, I would say, and I think this is why. And I did a story on it a long time ago, but I think this is why. It's the whole concept of it's easier to play on the road. Like it's much easier to play when you don't have 100 friends asking you for tickets, or when you
that's
don't
what I've
have,
heard too.
and I've heard this. It's like I've heard it really becomes something like I've heard guys who play for their hometown team who actually hired people to handle all that. They'll say this is the guy you call if you want to get tickets. They'll push that all off on. They'll actually have a little team that handles all the requests because they live in their hometown. They have to have that.
It's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It's easier for them. It's like, listen, I got to focus on what I'm doing. I appreciate it, but here's a special number. This is how, believe it or not, I have a friend who in the Taylor Swift organization, right? Who actually plays, a keyboardist who plays for Taylor Swift, and different, and a couple other people within there. And when I wanted to get Taylor Swift tickets, that's kind of how it worked. Like I wanted to get Taylor Swift tickets for my daughter, and I felt like a jerk. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to ask this guy. How many people ask him for Taylor Swift tickets, right? He's like, oh, no problem. I'll have so and so call you, and they sent me a form. Who are you friends with? Who's this? What? It was completely like automated, the whole thing, and it was like it was really fascinating, and you had to pay for them, it wasn't like free. It's like here you're gonna pay face value for the tickets. That's awesome, but this is something that everybody in the band knew to do when someone came and asked them for tickets. So it was really interesting. So to me, and I thought it was a great way of doing it because it clears up a lot of issues. And I didn't want free tickets, but I also wanted it was sold out, and I know my daughter wanted to go, and I wanted good tickets, so here you go.
As much as I would love to sit here and talk about Taylor Swift for an hour, because I can do that. If you want to do that, we can do that. I'm totally okay with that.
I'm worried that you can do that. That's a problem.
Oh, it's she's wonderful. Coming back to the Lightning here, they have so many guys to re-sign. And they only have about a projected $19 million. That's if the cap stays relatively the same, around that point. Kucherov could get 6 or 7 easily.
Right.
And then you're talking about re-signing Stamkos. And you have to re-sign JT Brown, Cedric Paquette, Nemestikov needs new contracts. So there are a few guys that are important to them in a way that need new deals. Yep. And then Hedman next summer as well. So all of this combined absolutely shocks me that this team has not bought out Matt Carl yet.
Yeah.
This is a guy that was a healthy scratch for a Game 7. He was in and out of the lineup towards the end of the year. They realized he's not a top 4 defenseman anymore. He makes $5.5 million. If you buy him out, you get 3.7 in space right now. 3.7 million in space. The final 2 years, you have to pay 1.8 in penalties. But this makes all the sense in the world because Steve Yzerman needs to find every nickel and dime under the couch that he can right now. And to not buy out Matt Carl, because I don't think you're going to find a trade partner. They tried the regular season to trade this guy, and they couldn't.
And they have young defensemen coming up like Cuckoo and
Nesterov Nesterov can be that 6th defenseman that Carl really is right now for a lot cheaper. So it blows my mind they haven't done that. I think they should try to trade Topila if they can. Ryan Callahan is overpaid, but he does so much for them they're not going to trade him, I don't think.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of money tied up to veterans. And I wrote this earlier this week for HockeyBuzz saying there's a lot of money tied up to older guys, and they got to find a way to shed at least 1 or 2 of them.
I think it's a great point. I think Carl's a prime candidate for that buyout. I mean, Carl went downhill really fast. He was all about his speed, basically. His game was all about speed, and when he took the speed away, his game fell off quickly.
He's still a fairly young guy, though, and if Tampa changes their philosophy on their defense, they may just give him another chance, or they still might try and trade him to a cap floor team. That's probably what they're still trying to do before they do the buyout. Like, it's just last-ditch effort, I'm sure.
It feels like they have 1 more year to figure this out. Like unfortunately, they really don't because of Stamkos now, obviously, but it feels like they do. And what I've been told is they're treating it like they do. I mean, teams don't treat things like they don't worry about the house being on fire until it's spread to a couple rooms. They're going to be okay for a little bit. Is how they'll do it. And it's not always the smart way to handle it, of course, but there's definitely right now. I think they've already parted ways in their head with Bishop. I think moving on. I think going down the line, I think that he's not going to be there. So that's 1 less contract they got to deal with. But they're going to have to at some point pay Vasilevsky. I agree with you that Hedman is the big one. Hedman is he's the major player in there because he's a top 5, 6 defenseman in the league. So you're talking about. I'm still not
100% sold on them getting rid of Bishop back. Honestly, I know the reason why, but honestly, you look at the market right now. the market is almost flooded with available goaltenders. Freddie Anderson, Marc-Andre Fleury, you throw Bishop in there, and right now there are 2 teams out there, Calgary and Toronto.
I don't think they're going to trade him, Mike. I'm sorry if I interrupt, but I don't think they're going to trade him. I think that they're just going to let him run out. I think they're going to let him run out his contract. So,
okay, that's more realistic. Okay.
I mean, I think when I talk about this being 2 years away from a problem, that's why I say Bishop is not a part of the problem in their head, because 2 years from now when they've got to sign the other guys like Kucherov, Bishop's not having to be signed. That's how I see it.
They already have Guzlevskis back, as the backup signing. So even if you go for the next year when Bishop's out or he's exposed Bishop would be UFA, so they could always sign him again if they felt like Vasilevsky isn't ready, but he's ready. But the idea is they have Vasilevsky, they have Gudlevskis signed already. So most likely you're right. They're going to probably ride him out unless they got some kind of crazy offer for him.
So Ty, what do you think? I mean, Stamkos, where do you think this ends up? I mean, you covered the Lightning for us. What do you think?
I don't think it ends in Tampa. This is the vibe that I pick up. I think it's a situation where I don't think Toronto's the team. Like I don't get the overwhelming feeling that he wants to go to Toronto because they're so far away from winning. And I think he's gotten so close that there has to be another team in the mix. I don't know who that team is. Yeah. But I don't think it's Toronto, and I don't think there's enough money in Tampa Bay to make it work, unless they make some move that it's on no one's radar until next Friday. I don't see how they get the money to make it work.
Yeah. See, I mean, obviously I disagree. I think with Stamkos, Toronto is 2 years away from making the playoffs. If Toronto doesn't get him,
a long way away from competing.
Does he want to throw away a year or two from just making the playoffs and not?
He's on the team right now that competes for the Stanley Cup next year.
Right. I think Detroit is a real possibility. I really do.
To me, Detroit. Detroit has I'd say below average defense.
Right
now, their 2 best defensemen are an aging Nicholas Kronwall and Danny DeKeyser.
Right.
Datsuk is leaving. Their goaltending is Jimmy Howard, who's a chronic underachiever, and Peter Mrazek, who's up and down. Their forwards are relatively deep, but a lot of them, guys like Nyquist, did not have good years. They have a great young player in Dylan Larkin, but the older guys, the guys like Zetterberg, are crumbling. So I don't see where Detroit. Yeah, I don't.
Doesn't it feel like he's going to go to Anaheim or something like that? Like that's what it feels. It's like I've been down this road so many times. It's like we're going to say Steven Stamkos signs with Anaheim. It just feels like it's always somebody that you don't really expect. That's just somebody really bizarre out west. Or it reminds me so much of when Solani and Correa signed with Colorado. Like there's certain things that just kind of like threw you completely. Or Jersey, like New Jersey. Montreal would be crazy for. It seems like he's on my chart for Montreal because Montreal's very interested in him. But when you think about the idea, okay, the taxes in Montreal are crazy. He's a Maple Leafs fan growing up. I mean, he definitely can't like Montreal.
I think the argument that he will not go to Toronto because he'd be throwing away years is sort of an empty argument because if they get Stamkos, I think they will be on a more accelerated track to be better earlier. They will go out and get the goaltender this summer. They will go out and...
Yeah, I mean, and that's what my point would be. If Stamkos is going there, he's going there knowing that VC's pretty sure of signing there, that they're going to go and get a goalie and a defenseman. They're going to tell him all that. If they do that, they're better than Detroit. Like, it's not even a question in my mind. They're better.
But nobody knows about VC. VC can't even say hi to other teams right now. You know what I mean? There's no way anyone can know where VC's going.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know for sure, Ty, but you know it's those 2 teams and his dad works there. And if VC sees that Austin Matthews and Stamkos are there and he could sign there, other than loving Boston and being with his mom, that's a pretty hollow reason.
The Preds already have a tampering file ready to go.
Which is probably why you could see at the draft a trade for VC's rights because August 5th, teams are going to have to wait till August 15th, which is 3 weeks before training camp opens to decide on VC. That's why I think at the draft you could see Nashville getting a 2nd or a 3rd round pick from a Boston or a Toronto to get the negotiating rights for a couple months, and then mark my words, about 3 days after they make that trade, he'll get signed because that's who he's been wanting to go to all along.
When I think logically in my head about this, and this is not based on obviously because I have this team at 5% on my Stamkos rumor chart because based on the whole concept of of where he should go. You know, if I'm just him and his agent and looking at the teams that are interested in him, I really seriously do look at the Islanders, Dan. I really do, because the Islanders to me are the closest of all those teams to being competitive, to being very competitive. They are actually a playoff team already. They have really a solid group of young players coming up. He can play with Tavares. You know, there's so many things there that that's the one team. I know he's a center. I get that, but you know they're talking about power plays. Right, you're talking about power plays. Talking about.
I'll take Steve Stamkos over Franz Nielsen.
That's what I'm saying. You're gonna if you lose him, you know, there's the opening.
Yeah, it just feels like that's.
I don't know. Look, I don't know if he's gonna go there, but I mean, I've been following this with X since December. Yeah. And there's definitely interest there. From the Islanders' perspective, I do think an offer will be made. Obviously, it's up to Stamkos. But I think, you know, and it's a very Islander thing to do, but I do think if he makes it to July 1st, there's going to be an offer there, and Tavares is his friend.
But how uncomfortable would that be in the Islanders scenario where they say they have to pay Stamkos $10 million in free agency time, and you have John Tavares making $5.5 million
for a year, for 1 year.
Yeah, just one more year.
It's 2 years. It's till 2018.
But you can already negotiate a contract into next season.
Right.
I just don't think he wants to be in the New York area. I don't think
that he doesn't want to be in the New York area, and I agree. But
I've heard that as well too.
That's just one source, you know, who I do trust. But and like I said, I really don't think anyone knows what's going on with Stamkos, so I don't even. So I throw it out the window.
It just doesn't seem like that's where he wants to be. Like, in other words, like settling down. You know, if he played in the New York area, he wouldn't be living anywhere near New York.
No, he'd be living near me in Long Island.
Yeah. And I want to be
that year round.
And I want to be taking the psychedelic mushrooms of the people who are saying that Stamkos is going to go to the Buffalo Sabres. I mean, give me a break. I mean, right now that organization, they're 1 year away from, or they have to sign Ristolainen to a long-term deal now. They're 2 years away from having to lock up Eichel on the big long-term deal. You know, they don't have the resources. I mean, Pagula does because he can just spout another oil well in Pennsylvania. But they're not going to spend $11 million on Steven Stamkos. It's a pipe dream.
I don't think it's a pipe dream. I mean,
goaltending. They would have to get a goalie.
No, I think that it's more like that. I think Russ is right there.
Defense isn't set. They are not near set up on defense.
Toronto either. I mean, all this you can say the same thing.
No, but Toronto has some really nice defensive pieces. I'm struggling to find defensive pieces on Buffalo that are nice. Bogosian's aging. Like,
Ristolainen's a good player.
Ristolainen, Jake McCabe.
I know he is the only one.
Ristolainen, Jake McCabe.
McCabe is a good player. He's not a great player.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next player here, because we're going to obviously talk.
Too much about it.
We're going to talk about Stamkos a lot in the next couple of weeks, for sure. Let's move on to Milan Lucic, who was another name I heard whose rights could be traded. I was surprised by this because, you know, I mean, Lucic, we all know he wants to stay in LA. It just doesn't look like that's going to happen at all. Because of the money, you know, I mean, and it's like he doesn't want to stay there enough to do what they want him to do, to stay there, basically, is what's happening,
If LA is going to spend big money on a player, on a free agent, they're going to spend big money on a defenseman or make a trade for a defenseman, because the one thing that people recognize is that in that series against San Jose, when Alec Martinez went down, they were dead. They had to play Muzzin and Doughty 30 minutes a game, and you know they have not recovered from not being able to put out two pairings like the Blackhawks have been able to do it in recent years. Two pairings that can eat up most of the minutes. I don't know if that means they're going to go after Keith Yandel or they're going to try to trade for Shattenkirk or whatever, but they have to spend their money on the blue line. And regarding Lucic, I still think, and maybe I'm dreaming, I think Edmonton is going to try to get him because
that's the team I have going for his rights. That's the one it's the only one I've heard that might make a trade for his rights right now. As of now, it could change, you know. But as of now, the one rumor I've heard is Edmonton trying to trade for Lucic's rights, which I think is a smart move by the Edmonton Oilers.
Yep.
Lucic's tie is kind of like cursed in some ways because like there's something like we're just coming off of a Stanley Cup final where speed matters, you know, like everything's about speed.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, if I look at his measurables, he's a 50 to 55 point guy now. That is, you know, he's going to get you 20, 22 goals possibly, and he's going to beat up a few people. But is that enough for the money that he wants? His, you know, power forwards are nice to have, but he doesn't have foot speed anymore. And he's only 28, but I just think at the end of the day, he's starting to trend down, and he's not going to get the money he's asking for. I'm pretty sure of that.
We need to throw out.
No, I think he already knows that he's not getting the money that he initially thought he was going to get. You know, the market's obviously changed a bit. I think in a team like Edmonton makes sense because Peter Chiarelli, you know, there's that connection there with Boston. Chiarelli always likes trading for his old guys or signing his old guys. It's always been his makeup as a GM. There's familiarity there, especially if they're looking for a guy that they think can just be that net front presence, that safety net for a guy like McDavid, make sure nobody kills him out there, and also contribute at a top 6 level, especially if they move on from one of these guys. If they move on from an Eberle, if they move on from a Nugent-Hopkins, a Draisaitl, any of these guys, and they need another forward to plug into their top 6, you look at their roster right now and you go, okay, they don't have any guys from that top 9. Right. I would say that can jump up as easily as Lucic could, I think, in terms of, you know, the known commodity, if you will. So I think that it would be a good move for Edmonton. You've heard the Vancouver rumors too. I don't know if that's really as great a fit as people think.
No.
He's kind of had a weird relationship with his hometown, you know, since the Bruins won the Cup and everything. Like, he's had some incidents up there.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know about the nightclub incident where he was attacked by a person there.
Yeah.
So it's a weird dynamic. I don't know if he'd want to go back there. I think the overwhelming feeling you get, though, is that a big free agent winger is going to go to Vancouver this summer. I just don't think it's going to be Lucic, personally. I think another hometown guy like Troy Brouwer would make a lot of sense for them. But I don't know. I mean, it's really – I think it's those two teams, though. It's Vancouver and it's Edmonton, because LA has to move a lot of money to make it happen. I don't think that will work for them. They have too many other needs, too many other concerns they need to address before they address Lucic.
Well, I've heard Calgary and Detroit are also interested, those two teams. So Detroit will get involved. Calgary. This does seem like a Brian Burke type thing in a way. Like, you can see this. You can see this move coming if a Calgary. But, you know, this is definitely his type of move. I agree. I think, you know, it's interesting. You know, what someone pointed out to me the other day, which is really funny, that Lucic definitely wants to stay. He said how much he wants to stay in LA, how much he loves the weather there, how much, you know, he loves how great it is there. And then we're talking about him going to Edmonton. So
yeah.
You know, there's that.
How about the team? Well, I mean, first of all, I would rule out going to Vancouver, which they should rename their team the Titanics, because that ship is sinking. I mean, I
still don't buy that. I'm not all in
either. I like where they're heading.
My personal opinion.
I went Mike on this one.
But honestly, if Lucic wants to stay in Southern California, a team a little bit down the road needs some scoring wingers to add to guys like Getzlaf and Kessler. I mean, it wouldn't be that much of a
problem.
I think that's up the road, Mike.
It's down, isn't it?
Is it down?
Anaheim's down, I think.
You're right. I got confused.
But they're a budget team. That's the problem.
They are a budget team, and now we can put a number. We did this last time. Last year we had some fun on this. We'll actually do this probably next week, but actually put numbers on guys. But I want to throw Lucic out there as the first one. I don't think Lucic makes over $5 million a year. I can throw that out there just now, and I think that's
let's
contract
ask
will be under $5 million a year.
How long of a contract is he getting?
I'm just any length.
I think 5 years. I don't think anybody's going over 5.
Okay.
Yeah, no way. No, I don't think anyone goes over 4. I'll say that too. But I think the biggest contract he gets is $20 million over 4 years.
If it's a 4-year deal, I think he gets more than $5 million. If it's a 5-year deal, I think he gets less. So I'll say 5.5 for 4.
All right.
Yeah, I like that too, and I think it's with this deal is I think wherever he goes, I'm gonna like the first half of that deal more than the second half.
Oh yeah,
I think he's still a very good player for 2 to 3 years, and then I'm not sure.
Right. I buy that. All right, so we have a coach. We have a coach to talk about today, and then we'll get, and then I have a little transition into another rumor. I guess officially Duran has withdrew his trade request too, just for the record.
Amazing what playing time does.
I know. How about that? And you know, one more thing I want to throw in. Sorry, I've got some notes here that I was looking at. I want to throw this into. I heard Garth Snow interviewed today, and he's very rarely interviewed. Like, he's not. You don't hear him interviewed very often. But I know Garth Snow pretty well from, you know, before he was a GM. So and he's a guy that's difficult to read, but I think I have a pretty good sense of him. And it was really interesting how much he was downplaying this draft. Obviously, they don't have some draft picks. You know, they don't have a second or a third, I guess. But he's such a draft guy. You know, like, he loves the draft. He's like, of all teams we've seen, he's been so creative in trading up. Like, one year I'll never forget. Every time they came to the Islanders pick, they traded down again, and they traded down again.
Or the year they traded the only defenseman.
Right.
Yes.
This is what Garth Snow does. This year he is so much not talking about the draft. But you have to know that he's really excited about some free agents. That's just the way Gar Snow works. So there's something that to me he's like thinking he was talking about how excited he was to move his team on.
Well, first of all, that show you were listening to, it went downhill after the Gar Snow interview. But
it usually does that time of day.
I didn't hear it.
No, there's a reason he's saying it. I came on after.
You were on after that, but I didn't hear you.
Right,
Sorry about that.
You could go to Audio Boom and listen to it. Here's the thing. It's the Sportsology Audio Boom. No, but the thing is, Rob Simpson did point out one thing. He said, it's what Garth didn't say in this interview.
Yep.
I want to ask you about. So he asked me about it, and he asked about Travis Hamonic, and he got silence when it came to possibly moving up in the draft. Now, Rob was like, I would have thought he would have said something if there was no chance of it happening, and he didn't say anything. And even though Hamonic says he's staying, again, family situations are volatile. We don't know. Life changes. Would it be complete shock if they're talking to Edmonton about that? No.
No.
The answer would be no.
No, it wouldn't be. I think that there's aspects of it that would be shocking about it because Hamonic really does, I think, legitimately did not want, it's legitimately okay now where he is for now. But you're right, situations are fleeting. You never know. This is the situation that's been on before. There are some people who think they went out and told him, say that I don't want to be traded anymore because that way you'll have at least some value if we try to trade you.
Right.
Because it was so definitive last year. How does it go from being so definitive to being okay? Within the course of a year, I get that. But with Gar Snow, if he'd asked me that question, what I would have said is this, Russ. I would have said that Gar Snow is too calculating for those kind of interviews. Like him not responding or taking a while to talk is just how he is. But when you're on the radio like that, you expect boom, 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 boom answers, So I don't know.
I think something's
good.
Something's up. I mean, something has to be up, right? Because you can't lose Martin, Okposo, and then maybe Nielsen, and then and just replace him with Barzell and Alan Quine and Shane Prince. That can't happen. Because if that's what he's going with, he should update his resume because he'll lose his job. So something has to. Go ahead, Mike.
Do you think that prospects who might be on the outs? I'm thinking guys like Ho-Sang, maybe Dal Cole. I
don't think they're on the outs. I just don't think they're ready yet.
Well, okay. I mean, do you think that they would move one of those guys that? I mean, Ho-Sang might be on the outs because of all the the supposed character issues. I mean, getting sent home.
No, I just think they need an influx of talent in their top six so desperately that I think anyone named John Tavares and maybe Barzell are untouchable. I think everybody else is in play. I think the entire roster's in play.
The funny thing about Ho-Sang is in the playoffs and juniors, there was a play towards the end of a game where apparently he was offsides by like a million feet. His head was totally out of the game, and I heard that didn't go over very well. And that's part of the Ho-Sang issue. So it wouldn't shock me if he's part of a deal.
I think that's crap, honestly. Look, you have other sports where baggage on players are them killing people, running people over with cars, getting arrested. Look at Johnny Manziel. Look at those guys. So if Ho-Sang has an attitude problem, I think that's fixable. I really do. And if it's not, but here it is. If it's not, he won't be in the league. That's how it works, right?
Well, but the thing is, he just may not get a chance on the Islanders because they've already crossed it once. If they feel like they're going to cross it again, they'll trade him.
I mean, this is Niederreiter territory.
I don't want to go into that. There are plenty of players on the current roster that make stupid mistakes. So I think if he makes one lapse of judgment in juniors, they're not going to trade him. I think they'll trade him if someone.
Those are things that get looked at harshly.
And he's a 19-year-old kid, and he makes a mistake. That's not a reason to dump him.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that's my opinion, but I'm saying it's being talked about.
I think that's stupid. It's the same reason why PK Subban's not on Team Canada. He gets unfairly criticized for some of the stupidest things in the world.
I don't disagree on that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But back to the Islanders. No, like I said, I think if they trade a Ho-Sang, if they trade a Dal Cole, if they trade a Hamonic, it's because they can get a guy like maybe Taylor Hall or Van Riemsdyk. They need an influx of talent. So I think it's basically all hands on deck to get back what they need.
Yeah. I mean, the one final thing about Ho-Sang, it's like, I mean, he had a great year with Niagara. He was 19 at the time of the World Juniors. He wasn't even a consideration for Team Canada because of the character issues. And now, start with what happened in training camp and then what happened in the OHL playoffs, there are red flags. I'm just saying.
Michael Del Cole didn't make Team Canada either.
No. Right, which is bizarre too. Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with his attitude.
Well, I mean, no, there isn't. And if you look at his stats after he got traded from Oshawa to Kingston, he went nuts with Kingston. So I think he's a very good prospect and somebody that they should give a good opportunity to.
I think they will. I think they will at the end of the day. Glenn Gulletson, I can never say his last name. Gulletson, sorry, will be named the Flames coach, or has been named the Flames coach by maybe during this podcast, I think, or something at some point maybe. The press conference was, I think, scheduled for 10:30 Calgary time. So
already done. It's already
done. So there you go. This is not a retread, but a guy who was in the NHL already with Dallas prior to the great lockout of the great second lockout of the last 20 years, and so here's a guy who is a little surprised with this, but I like him. I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about him. He was on Desjardins' staff, which is that always tells you something, because I really think Desjardins is a great coach. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on him, Russ?
I like him. I mean, look, he's won at the ECHL level. He's won at the AHL level. There's a good reason to give this guy another chance. Mm-hmm. At the time in Dallas, did he have a lot to work with? I mean, they were not where they are now. Let's put it that way. And so I think this is perfect. I mean, this is at least not one of those retreads where you're saying, okay, we got to bring in the guy who's won before, even though it's 10 years later, or somebody else's favorite because they just keep changing from team to team to team, and you don't want to even see him out of work for a year. So I like it. I think it's good new blood for them. I think Treliving made a good decision here, and they have a lot of young players, and he's used to working with young players.
I don't know what that sound was.
It was a truck.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, well, the interesting thing is that Gulletson was an assistant coach with Vancouver under Willie Desjardins, and Willie Desjardins was an assistant coach under Gulletson in Dallas. And now he goes to a division rival. I mean, it does make sense. He does work well with young players, and you've got the Goudreaus and the Monahans and the Bennetts who are the core of that Flames franchise. The funny thing is that I heard Randy Carlyle say in an interview a couple days ago, he interviewed with every one of the 4 teams that were looking for a head coach. So I don't know if Gulletson was sort of a fallback position because Carlisle took the Anaheim job, or if he was always the leading candidate. But he does have some redeeming value, and I think it's a pretty good hire for the Flames.
Yeah, I think it's. I really think they were into him the whole time. I get that impression, but he did interview for all the jobs, like you said, and that's something that's not uncommon. With coaches, they have to interview for as many jobs as they can, and they get their chances. But it does sometimes, like you're saying, it can be read in different ways. Like like they want Carlisle. I think Carlisle was definitely on their list for sure. Talking to people that they definitely had Carlisle in mind in Calgary. Sure. But he wanted to go there for sure. So. Yeah, I think that's a tough one. Let's go to our prospect the day, Russ. What do we got going on?
Pierre-Luc Dubois. People are requesting.
By popular demand on Twitter.
He was the guy, if you remember, I mentioned before the top prospects game. You said, "Hey, Russ, give me a couple guys you think will be good." And I said Pierre-Luc Dubois, and then the next day everybody's like, "Holy crap, he's really good."
Yeah.
And so that was one time where I looked smart. One time.
You did look smart that time.
But he's got great hair. That's always a thing. So he has good hair. That's a big thing. He's got great size. He's 6'3", 201. He's also a coach's son, and so that's something where that weighs really heavy in his favor because he is a smart kid. He's got a mean streak. Like, he will just plaster guys in the corner. He's like in the minor, juniors, he's 100 points, 100 pims. And so those guys are rare.
Yeah.
The issue with him is he a center or is he a winger? And the more I dig into it, the more I'm pretty sure he's going to start off at wing, and then we'll see if he's a center. But I don't think he is. But everybody going into a draft is a center. Like, everybody is a center.
Yeah,
and then all get drafted, and then all of a sudden they go to teams and they don't play center. He was 50% in juniors a couple of years back when he was a center. That's not good enough to me. I mean, he's got to be around 75% in that league, as big as he is. And so I think that's a little bit of a longer project. But he plays solid defense. He may have the best stamina of anybody on the draft. Really strong on his skates. Obviously, can score down low. Great hands.
So where are we looking in the top? Where would you project him?
It's really volatile. I mean,
yeah.
It really is. I mean, he could go anywhere from 4 on.
Okay.
I mean, he could go 3.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the issue. I'll tell you where I put him. I did a mock draft for a website, and I had him 6th Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the reason I had him 6th, because I had Matthews 1st, Laine 2nd, Puljujarvi 3rd. I had Edmonton taking Julevi. I had Vancouver taking Logan Brown because I think at the end of the day they're looking for a big center, and I think they might pick off the board a little bit to get that big center. And then after that, I think Dubois would be a great fit in Calgary if that were to play that way, because then that would give him some size to play with some of the other players. Jankowski has size too, so then they could have a few lines with size and a couple small guys. Well, Monahan's not small anyhow, but you get the idea.
And then the band would break out in Arizona because they'd have Kachuk with the 7th pick.
And that's how I'm going, yeah.
Right. I agree with everything Russ was saying. I mean, the one thing that could elevate him is if there is a team in that top 5 that thinks he is a center. I mean, if Columbus thinks he can be the replacement for Ryan Johansson, they might take him. But I seem to think, like, not that I have a mock draft, but just looking over these players, I've always slotted Dubois behind Kachuk because I'm more sold on Kachuk's skill set and size and ability to score than Dubois. But that may not be the case. I mean, if a team thinks that he fits in as that big winger, or maybe somebody in a couple years that can play up the middle, then they'll take him. Let's just say this: he will not get past number 9 because if Montreal has him there, they will go crazy to select him. And
no pressure, kid.
Yeah, no, exactly. There you go.
Yep. Oh man. So this is he's fast though, right? He's got speed.
Yeah, he has good speed. He has very, very good speed. Yes.
You always think of that. That's whenever I hear big.
Yeah, no, that's actually he's faster than Kachuk. Like that's the one knock on Kachuk. So.
Really? Okay. Yeah. There you go. I really enjoyed talking to Kachuk at the finals. I had a long discussion with him.
Yeah, he's a worldly kid.
He's a really good kid. He's a really interesting kid. You know, he's very smart. He really just has it all together. You can tell Keith Kachuk was also really the same kind of guy. He was really solid too.
Except that one time in a hotel room, but other than that, he's fine.
The thing is that I noticed the most from the combine was the sons of NHL players. The whole thing was no big deal. They had a level of confidence. Yeah. They've been in locker rooms their entire life.
It comes from being around this situation. I'm telling you, it really does. I mean, you can't help it. I mean, it's just the reality of it. Like, my kids could grow up to be great bloggers and someday, and just let's
hope for
a great podcast
and lawyers.
Because it's like podcasters and bloggers. That's what my wife would love them to become.
Yeah, you sound like his mother. That wasn't very nice.
Yeah, I know. No, but they could. I mean, honestly, the reality is when you're around the situation, like my kids are around crazy amounts of technology because I get all this technology sent to me and different things like that. So they really have no problem. Like I'm trying out this. The guy said, "Oh my gosh, if you ever get a chance to play around with you've heard me talk about Microsoft HoloLens a lot, but now I'm trying out the HTC Vive." Which is the virtual reality glasses, which are with these hand things that you use.
Yeah.
Mind frigging blown. This is where the world is going. Unbelievable.
With Father's Day coming up, I'll give one hint. Besides, anybody should really buy one of my books at Amazon.com.
Yeah.
I just got this for $170 with some points, but it's $179.
Okay.
At Best Buy, and it's a Dell Windows Chromebook kind of book. And you get a year full of Windows. It's excellent. Like this thing is very light, tremendous. Mike and I were just tuning it up for the show. It works well for that. I mean, it's literally a laptop, but it works exactly like a laptop. And now, even though it has a tablet mode, but it's literally like $179.
That's really awesome.
It's tough. And it's tough to please me, and I've really loved the Chromebook. It's been absolutely no problem at all.
Yeah, they're great too.
Chromebooks are crazy cheap and they're crazy good.
Yep.
And they really, especially for what we do. I mean, obviously, when you do Google Hangouts, Chromebooks are the way to go. Sometimes I've sent Chromebooks to various people who've been a part of the show over the years, so it's really as helpful. But this HTC Vive thing, man, if you ever get a chance to play around with it, if you ever get a chance to play around with one of these HTC Vives, oh my gosh, I'm playing this game like it's basically like racquetball the other day. So remember the feeling when you first got like a Wii? I mean, remember that concept of like, oh, this is really cool. I swing like this, and it swings on the screen, and that's really that feeling. Now take that to another level, where you put on these glasses, you're inside like the Tron Dome. Your basement suddenly looks like it's 500 feet wide and 700 feet long. You can see when you move your hands in front of you can see these two like glowing rackets that move around like when you move your hands, and a ball rises from the floor. You hit it against the wall. You sit there and wait for it to be returned to you. And it's just insane. I mean, it literally, like, and you take it off, and I'm like, oh, my basement looks so horrible after that. Like, I just, like, you take it off my basement, it's so depressing, but after being in that incredible space-age place.
The first time I played the Wii, I accidentally threw the controller.
My daughter did that with
even though it says please attach to your wrist so you don't throw the controller.
Threw the controller across the floor. Yeah, even though they have all those warnings. Well, remember the warnings came later. That was probably after Mike threw them.
Probably right. Good job, Mike. You're the reason.
The first big technology jump that I liked in video games was the Panasonic 3DO.
Yeah, this one. Yeah.
That was tremendous. That was the first game that, like, if you watched FIFA Soccer back then, that was the first time it really looked like amazingly real. Or actually Ultraman for those really geeky people. And I'll just leave it there.
Ultraman. I loved Ultraman.
Sega Dreamcast was also really underrated too. It didn't quite work, but some of the games they really tried to go out on a limb and they really pushed the graphics. And remember Soul Calibur for that was an amazing game.
When you put this on your head and you enter into these realms, like I was playing a shooting game where, like, a space game where you're in a cockpit. I mean, you literally tell it how it maps out your room, how big it is, and then it makes the environment as big as that, so you can walk around and pick up things. And you look, because you have these two things in your hands, which have these really weird controllers. They're really odd looking. They're not like what you would expect. It's insane. I mean, you can see, this is where the whole thing of gaming is going. That this has all kinds of benefits in other adult type industries. That you can see where this is all heading. I mean, it's crazy because you literally leave your space and you go someplace else. And I feel like if you went
talk about the last rumor, I got a question for Ty. So Ty,
what's up?
With that extra Boston Bruins pick, do you get the feeling they might trade off that second pick because they are lacking a little in talent, and maybe that's a way of getting it back?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's sort of the plan because there's no one there that I see and I immediately go, oh yeah, they're gonna take this guy. Like with the 14th pick, I see a lot of those defensemen like that may fall in that next tier. I see those guys. I do not see the end of that first round being an absolute must-have for them. The problem is that I don't know if that's a must-have for any other teams either. But I do think they're going to try to
trade into the first round. I think that don't have a pick.
Yeah, and I think they're going to try to do what they can to upgrade their defense, but it's really difficult because you're not going to get like a Shattenkirk for the 29th. You know what I mean? You're not going to get like an all-star. You're not going to get a top four changing guy there. I don't think. So you have to package other things. That's when you talk about a Ryan Spooner. Maybe to Adam McQuaid. You talk about these guys on your NHL roster, maybe even some of your other picks in your system, guys that you maybe don't think are going to make it, or there's not enough room in the inn, if you will, for these guys. So maybe they make a trade. But I've always looked at that pick as a trade chip for them. I think that's how they've looked at it as well. They didn't think it was going to be as low as 29, but here they are, and they make do what they can. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is traded. I just don't know what it's going to bring them. I don't know if it brings them the ultimate package. I mean, for me, I've always said, and I was talking about this earlier today, I think that pick, along with some NHL pieces, should be a part of a pitch to get, Semi Vatanen or Hampus Lindholm. One of these guys, because you need that guy in your top four. Jonas Brodin's another one. I think Brodin, though, you have to give up a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, that's what I think that pick should be used as if you're the Boston Bruins.
How about reuniting the Hayes brothers in Boston?
I don't think they want to do that.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
I do have an aside. The other thing I was going to throw out there was that I've heard a little bit about Brian Campbell possibly heading back to Chicago. I'm still following up on it, but it would be a really cheap deal. But it does seem to have some legs to it.
See, there you go. That would make sense in the sense that would be the number 4 to Seabrook, Keith, and Yarmulson. And if he takes a contract for, say, a couple $1 million a year, with them being budget strapped, that is really a great addition.
I mean, the chance for him to win a Stanley Cup. He's at the end of his career. His wife is from Chicago. From what I understand, he lived in Chicago. So yeah, and obviously because he played in Chicago for a couple years before. Remember, he signed a big contract with the Blackhawks before going to Florida, all with Dale Talon. So there you have it. That's what I've heard too. I'm going to look into it more as the day goes on. We're going to have more stuff for you guys. Of course, on Monday we will know a lot more. Will any rights be traded over the weekend? I wouldn't be shocked if we had a couple trades over the weekend at all. I mean, I think that we're picking up speed here. So definitely stay tuned to HockeyBuzz as best you can, and we'll pop in with anything that comes up and anything I hear. Thanks everybody for joining us this week. And remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you soon.